When you live in a culture that was heavily influenced by Christianity, as all of us do in the West, Christianity can be found everywhere. Christmas and Easter are national holidays in most places. People put their hand on a Bible as an oath of honesty. Even our words, things with very specific religious origins, have become part of the common lexicon. Redemption, atonement, breakfast, quarantine, grace, bless you, and goodbye. Unfortunately, it's because of this that we can get suckered into using some absolutely garbage phrases because they sound inspirational and we just assume they have something to do with Christianity and the Bible, when in fact, they go against our faith. My dear brothers and sisters, please delete these 5 phrases from your memory and never use them again. Number 1. God helps those who help themselves. This one has been debunked more than a few times, and so most people don't use it seriously anymore, but they do think it. The idea that we need to be good, independent, hardworking people for God to take notice of us is pervasive in our culture. In reality, this phrase is much more American than it is biblical. At no point in the Bible will you find God favoring independence. He doesn't say, hey, I like that guy down there who keeps to himself, never asks for help, and shows that he doesn't need me. No. This is precisely the person that God condemns in the parable of the rich fool who built a larger barn. It's who Mary said God would cast down from their mighty thrones. Rather, the God of the Bible goes to the poor, the outcast, those who are dependent on others to survive precisely because they are dependent on others. In the books of the prophets, he can be seen showing mercy to sinners and seeking to win them back. This is why Jesus was sent. I did not come to call the righteous but sinners, he says, even those who abuse the community and bring shame upon them. God helps those who ask for help, who need his help, not those who help themselves. Please, stop saying this and stop acting like this. If you need help, go to God. If your brother or sister is in trouble, help them. Number 2, stay strong. If you've ever gone through a tough time, you may have had someone send you off in this way. Meant as a way of showing support, synonymous with don't give up, I don't hate this phrase in itself, but I do think that it is flawed in the same way as the first phrase. Beneath the idea of staying strong is a focus on one's own abilities, one's own strength. There's a continued sense of American stoicism pervading this sentiment, that you will be able to make it through because you are capable, on your own, to weather the storm. This is almost never the case. Not only am I not strong enough on my own, attempting to get through something with my strength alone is only going to make things much worse. As St. Paul teaches, the only one who is truly strong is Jesus. It is through his grace that we accomplish anything, and it is only in being weak, in being vulnerable enough to rely on him, that we receive his strength. He says, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." I know it doesn't sound as nice to tell someone in pain to stay weak or just give up already, but such a sentiment would be much closer to our theology. Telling someone to stick it out on their own will get them nowhere, but encouraging someone to rely totally on God, to let go of their own control, will. Maybe instead of saying, stay strong, we could say, Christ be your strength, or don't give up on him. This would be much better. Number 3, God wants us to be happy. This may be the most annoying, horrible, infuriating one on this list because it sounds so right. And who is going to argue that God doesn't want us to be happy? And yet it is just a terrible mantra to live your life by. To be clear, God does want us to experience pure and total bliss in the kingdom of God, and does not want us to experience unnecessary suffering, but that doesn't mean he wants us to always be happy in this life or to avoid any form of suffering. Happiness is an emotion, and emotions can be misleading. Sometimes, if our consciences are a bit off, we can get happiness from things that are not good. How many times I have laughed at someone else's mistake, found relief in another's failure, even wished for something that is evil. On the other hand, there have been plenty of times when uncomfortable situations made me holier, when going through a temporary trial brought me closer to God. Suffering in this life, as we can clearly see from the crucifixion, is not always a bad thing. To live our entire lives based solely on the idea of happiness, avoiding all that is painful, is going to lead us down some very unfulfilling roads. God's ultimate desire for us is not temporal happiness, it is for our sanctification and deification, that we may be purified and brought into communion with him in heaven. And so, like a good parent, sometimes that means forcing us to eat our proverbial vegetables. Sometimes that means grounding us so that we can get our homework done. If taking away our immediate happiness results in greater glory later on, you better believe God is going to make us unhappy now. Rather than say that God wants us to be happy, we should say that God wants us to be holy. This, we can be sure, he wills above all else. Number 4, believe in yourself. Could there be anything more blasphemous in our age? I realize the point is to empower people with anxiety and to motivate people to do great things, but come on, really? Believe in myself? You know that I'm a useless sinner, right? I am all for emphasizing human agency and recognizing that God expects us to use the gifts He's given us for good. The opposite of believing in myself might be Jesus take the wheel, in which we sit back and do absolutely nothing because we're waiting for God to take care of it all, which is also not good. But there has to be a balance between the two. It's not me I'm believing in when I set out to do something good. It's the power of God that dwells in me, guides me, and will ultimately accomplish what God wants done. This may sound like semantics, just splitting hairs, but it's not. There is nothing that we can do without God's initiative. Even the act of loving God itself, St. Augustine points out, is a result of God loving us first. Even when we put in the time, work hard, develop skills, and achieve incredible things, we are never working alone, and we can never accomplish anything if it is not ultimately a part of God's plan. Taken to its extreme, believing in yourself is blasphemous against God and downright heretical, but even in small doses it can still be dangerous. To think that we can do anything without Him, or that we are due glory for any of our accomplishments, is a problem. Please, stay humble. Believe in God and give Him the glory for anything that you happen to do. It wasn't you that accomplished it, it was Him working through you. And finally, number 5, no regrets. Could there be a more perfect Instagram hashtag that sounds inspirational but is actually horrible advice? You can just see it written over some whimsical font over people having fun. Very live, laugh, love vibes. But what are we actually saying here? Don't have any regrets in life? So even when you do something horribly wrong and hurt other people, you shouldn't have remorse for what you've done? You could probably tie this to the honorable mention phrase of love means never having to say I'm sorry as the most sociopathic things people say in our age and think it's inspirational. If someone ever tells you they live by the mantra no regrets or that they never have to say they're sorry, I would consider running far, far away. You should have lots of regrets in life. Not that you go out and seek things that you will later regret, but that you should be able to look at your life, especially the things you did when you were younger, and have genuine sorrow for the things you did wrong. Contrition is a very good thing that we all need a little bit more of. Of course, this is not to beat ourselves down or to live in shame for the mistakes we've made. As Christians, we believe that God is merciful and that forgiveness is possible. We can move beyond our mistakes. But this is only possible if we truly regret what we've done, if we come to hate our sin and wish we could undo what we've done wrong. Having regrets is not only a sign of a life lived in a messy world, it is a sign of introspection and humility. It's a recognition that we are flawed and are in need of help. If I could hope for nothing else from this video, it would be that you have some regrets in your life, that you may be blessed with the eyes to see your own faults and to turn to God for help. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. This is actually a continuation of a video I made about 4 years ago with 5 Christian cliches to avoid, so check that out here. In a similar vein, I also made a video about words that Christians should absolutely never say. Check that out here. Let me know in the comments which words and phrases really bother you and what we as Christians should avoid.